Alright, I think we're live. And we should be on Picardo and the whole 9 yards. Victory today because my throat, it's not perfect, but it's feeling a lot better than last night. So we're gonna just jump into the Redline clinic and see how far we can go. I might not.
What up, Dave? You wanna know what up?
Oh, nothing much. Redline clinic, of course. I might not be going for the full 2 hours if my throat is not up to its normal powers of yakking, but I think we can go at least for a while.
Get a box of candy. It'll be fine.
Also, thank you very much to everyone for the huge support we've gotten so far with CouchCon. It's just going really good. People are buying merch. The commission slot is going like zany. I don't know, just everyone's like finding stuff in the store that they like and they're checking out. So the support helps us very much, especially with all the cool things Vivid is trying to accomplish and
No, but don't need to push yourself too hard.
all the malicious things Vivid is trying to survive. So I just want to say thank you everyone for coming in and getting stuff that you like. It really does mean a lot to us. And speaking of stuff that you like and stuff that I like to do a Redline clinic. So without any further ado, let's look at some art submissions from you guys on X, and I will talk about my professional feedback and thoughts. First one here, I might not remember offhand who has done every piece, but I do know this one is Rowbritter, I think. You can tell he's got the cool logo down there. This one is just really strong. Oh, it's his first OC? Cool. Rowbritter's first OC. So talented artist, doing some cool stuff. Also, I like his halo. You can see it like activating and just like actually making a shockwave that breaks the stuff. Yeah. So, what is there to say about this? First of all, there's a lot of things I already like right off the bat about it. One, the cinematography. Notice like the horizon line is tilted. We have a nice Dutch angle. So a lot of times artists will go ahead and they don't really think necessarily about like the cinematography and just a little something like tilting the camera. You can see the horizon line is way down low in the scene, so that gives us a nice worm's eye view, which makes the character seem a little larger, more imposing, which is great if they are sort of like coming in strong and doing a cool action pose. So already, I love the cinematography, nice low angle, a little bit of a Dutch tilt to the camera, good stuff. Also putting destructible things in the background so that when the halo shockwave goes out, it shatters them. That's also really cool, and also kind of helps emphasize, again, the perspective a little bit. Even though it's not technically perspectively accurate, I think the oval would have gone like beyond the camera frame here. I would have actually considered it doesn't have to be color-coded, but it just makes it easier to look. Like, you've got this back arc, which makes it look like it's flying out from the halo. I would have considered putting just a little bit of a front arc here, maybe even like blurring it out a little bit. Just because that sort of helps complete the idea that it's an oval and snapping it together. And I know technically that's not, again, that's not perspectively accurate, but sometimes it's okay to fudge things just for the overall impact of the frame that you want to get. So what would I do differently about this? Let's see, I think one thing, which is not the most fun part to...
It's a girl.
Oh, it's a girl? Okay, thanks, Liz. One thing that is not the most popular and exciting thing to talk about, but backgrounds. So already, there's things about this background that I do like. The fact that there's different angles in here. It's not all completely squared off. It's not all just totally rectilinear.
Say hi to Happy Guy One.
Say hi to Happy Guy One. Hi, Happy Guy One. But one of the things that I do like to put in a lot of backgrounds is try to think about what else might be inside of them, because a lot of times there's the risk of having a background that just sort of looks like a house that's for sale, like it's totally empty, there's no furniture in it, there's no clutter in it.
I want to know more about backgrounds.
Oh yeah, well I'm talking more about backgrounds then. So already with this room, I like the design of the room, I like the fact that there's different angles for things. That makes it feel more alive successfully. But another step is, like, if you go into, like, any room in your house even, like, take a quick snapshot of a room in your house, it's a good exercise, and then, like, look at the snapshot and try to figure out, like, okay, what is every prop and item on here? Is there something, like, laying out on the desk? And we do have a bottle here, which is cool. But it's like, where do people, try to think through, there's two approaches, I guess. One is look at references, and two is try to think through what would be necessary. Like I'm thinking if this was a bar, I'm sort of sketching in like ghosty shapes where maybe bar stools would be. And if it's, I don't know, if this is like a window view here, sometimes there's like little tables with like more bric-a-brac or like photos hanging on the walls. Like all sorts of things. Even if there's a door back here, sometimes there's like a waste bin by the door. And then there might be like a little crumpled paper or two here and there that's been tossed at the waste bin but not quite hit it. Excuse me. Another nice thing that you can do sometimes is, and if this is more of like, say like more of an underground place, they have a crate because they have illicit materials. One thing you can do, and I'll just make this layer a little more clear. So if we have, let's say the horizon line is this green line here, roughly speaking. Everything right now is going to a single vanishing point, and that is because we are in 1-point perspective. That's cool. However, if you're populating your background with clutter, bric-a-brac, other pieces of furniture, one thing to bear in mind is a lot of times, if let's say there's a crate in this room, usually, especially if the room is a little more chaotic, people are not going through and lining up everything to be at a perfect 90-degree angle with the walls. So even let's put a chair in here. Let's put a chair in here and let's give it a slight tilt. And how do you tilt something in three-dimensional space so it still is actually going where it's supposed to go in perspective? Because it's no longer going to that vanishing point. Well, if you think about it, let's say you have a box and it is going to that vanishing point. Well, if you like rotate the box to the left like that, it's basically the same, except think of the box almost as like a cannon. Like that cannon is aiming towards that vanishing point, and the box is still going to be on the ground. It's not going anywhere. But the vanishing point, its aim, just tilt the aim over a little bit right here. So, ooh, we still have the same horizon line, but now we are going to be tilting the chair so it is in the room. It's in the same horizon line. It's all in the same space, but it's aiming somewhere right adjacent to the perspective. Or, I'm sorry, adjacent to that initial perspective point. So I'm just going to sketch in a few little, and again, this is very rough. There's a few little guidelines here. Let's put like the back of the chair behind her, sorry. Get the arms of the chair like this. And especially if you can see like the skirt of the chair at the bottom. That's going to sort of help show like, hey, it's in perspective. But then here's the next part of this question. It's like, okay, we've moved this over. But what about, so that's where all these lines are going. What about these lines? Where are they going? Well, let's say this is a 1-point perspective, so we don't have to worry about a second point. But as soon as you tilt something, a little something interesting happens. This perspective point goes over here, but a second one appears over there somewhere. So for now, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, and it's like somewhere over there. It intersects with the horizon line. That's the most important thing to keep track of. And then you can kind of fudge it, and it's okay. Like, there's probably ways to figure out exactly where that second perspective point is, but we don't have to worry about that too much. Alright, so this is just, and you can even, just for freebies, let's put like a crate right here. And I'm not saying like, oh, this illustration should have a crate right here. That's the one way to do it.
You look great.
Yeah, but I'm just illustrating the overall point of, sometimes you can put additional clutter into a room, and it really helps to mix up the location of the vanishing point of those items, so they don't look quite perfect and they look a little more lived in, a little more chaotic.
That's your signature move is putting a crate in.
My signature move is crates. I think there's a term in video games called time to crate, where it's like, how many seconds into the game does it take for you to locate your first crate? And that's like a rating system for how uncreative the devs are. But it's like, at the same time though, it's like, I think it's a funny rating system, but crates are there in video games because they're of great utility and they work. And sort of like, you know what, if wheels work on a car, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Crates are fine in video games.
You can hide in them.
Yeah. Alright, so I've done a lot of talking about perspective. I think we get it. Now, let's look at this character pose and see if there's anything I would possibly try to punch up with this. I like the hand gesture. I don't know why, it sort of gives me an Italian vibe. Sort of like, hey, come at me. What did you think was going to happen? I'm not sure, but...
You had a fixed strike.
Oh, hello, Fixed Strike. How's it going? Another thing about the arm sort of being tucked in here is I'm wondering if this shockwave could potentially hurt them. If their arm was like, it's way out here. Oh, I hit myself with my own shockwave. So I don't know if that's how their power works or not, but that's just a thought. One thing I would say as a note of critique is, let me get a big thing here for the silhouette. Like if you have a character, sometimes you want to try to make sure that the silhouette is very clear and readable as to what the pose is. So I'm just going to sort of like block in. Yeah, Liz?
The main purpose is to create some interesting noise in the background.
Yeah, the main purpose, it creates interesting noise in the background, and it also, like, the other thing about adding things into a room and adding details is it always starts to additionally bring the room more to life, because you're learning sort of like what the room is. Because at that point, the things in there, like if it's a bunch of crates and bottles and, you know, like if you take a photograph of like a, let's say like a loading dock break room, that's going to be different than if you take a photograph of a waiting room in like a dentist office, or you get the idea. Like the selection of props and items in a given background, there's, unless again it's like a totally blank, like a house for sale or something, there's almost always a bunch of stuff kind of hanging around. And then your choice of what those are is like visually, it makes the space look more full and like realistic and lively. It also contrasts with the characters nicely, because if you load more detail into the background, a nice simple cartoony character, there's just a sense of contrast there that I find appealing. But again too, like the choice of detritus and rubble and furniture or whatever, like the selection of those things tells you a lot about the personality and the character of the space. Got stuff going on the side. Let me mute that.
Yeah.
Liz is messaging while I'm trying to give lectures here. Alright, so anyways, we were talking about character silhouettes. So you can see when you look at the silhouette, it works. It's not like there's anything that's like dramatically wrong here, so I'm going to say good job. And again, I really like the worm's eye view on this character. It's overall strong. I'm just trying to figure out, is there any way to punch it up even stronger? So if I was going to try to punch it up more, I would try to make the arms separated out from the torso a little bit, so it's a little bit more clear in a silhouette like this what the character's doing. Also, just offhand, man, great expression on the character. Nice, aggressive, they've got like the sort of intimidating, toothy look. So I like this character design a lot. You did a great job with this character design. So if I was going to be like redlining, it's turquoise because there's already a lot of red here. If I was going to be redlining, I'm not going to be doing like a lot of really crazy changes. But I don't know, maybe I will do crazy changes. I like also the tilt in the body. I'm identifying things that I like as I go through. So the shoulders are tilted with the stage right shoulder being closest to us, and the hips are tilted in the opposite way, which is really fun. So I think I would keep that because that's working really well. Well, let me put like a layer here to make things a little more easy to see when I'm sketching. There we go. Oh, I lost my teal. Alright, I got my teal back. So I would actually maybe just push it a little bit more. And when you have, especially when you have like this low dramatic perspective, sometimes exaggerating the foreshortening can really even punch it up more. Like I would say, with this hip coming towards us more, maybe bring this knee even a little bit closer like that. And then the calf goes back, and the digitigrade part goes back down again. And we could put this foot closer to us, because that helps emphasize a little more the fact that the hips are tilted and the legs are going back in space to different areas. So I'm actually just going to take what you've got, which frankly is great and perfectly fine, but I'm just going to exaggerate a little bit. So the hips are tilted already, so I'm just going to push this front leg a little more close to us, push this back leg a little further away from us. And what that does is you've got a great camera angle, great perspective, nice Dutch angle, and just making sure that that's reflected in the placement of the figure helps to draw even more attention to how good this dynamic space is working for you. Because you've got a dynamic character, he's in a dynamic space, but just trying to like punch up those elements makes the whole thing kind of pop a little more. So I don't know if, again, this would be compatible with his power or not, but just for the sake of like a nice clean silhouette, I would actually consider taking his Italian gesturing hand and putting it sort of out here.
I'm not sure the character's actually Italian. It's a her. It's Italian.
Oh yeah, say what?
I'm not sure the character's Italian.
Oh, I don't know if it's Italian either. I'm just riffing on it.
Oh, okay.
So I would actually bring this arm into the foreground a little bit more, like this. And then I like this back arm going to the back, but I would try to leave at least a little triangle of negative space right here, because that's going to help the pose read a little bit better. And if I'm going to do that, then I have to sort of like change the angle of stuff slightly. I love the arc you have in the tail. It's just beautiful. I wouldn't change a thing about that. The head is great. The angle is great. If you wanted to, you could even tilt the head up a little bit more. But that's just sort of getting into like for funs. So big picture, if I was going to change anything about this, basically I'd be like, hey, you got this done in like X number of hours. What if you got it in X times 3 hours? You know, what if it took you 3 times as long? So I'd consider cluttering up the background a little bit. And it doesn't even take like a ton of clutter. Like a trash can, maybe a couple of stools, a box unfolded, and a few things will go a long way. And also I will say, when it comes to action, shock waves, someone like slamming someone into the ground, anything like that, the more loose detritus and paper and whatever, napkins, the more stuff is around to go flying, the more it helps to illustrate like the impact of the kinetic energy going all over the place. So sort of like if there's a tornado in the Matrix, it doesn't really look fancy because there's nothing to fly around, but if you put a tornado into a junkyard, you get the idea. And then, so that's what I would do with the background, is just add some stuff. And on the character, I would just push the hip tilt a little more, exaggerate the placement of the feet, and then I would consider splitting the arm up a little bit so that the silhouette is a little easier to read. And that, I think, is our first piece. So fantastic work. Now let's move on to piece number 2. I believe this is from Floris, and I have been instructed that those are bell bottoms in the picture.
I think that's obvious.
You think it's obvious? Yeah, they look like...
I knew that.
I used to wear pants like that when I was in high school. They weren't bell bottoms, but they were very baggy.
Were you in the 70s?
I was not in the 70s. I was in, what is it called, the 90s?
The same thing. They came back. But there was an emergency that they were bell bottoms.
Just getting a little drink of coffee there. Alright, so what would I do differently on this? I like how the character is already sort of like stepping forward here. You can see a different placement in one foot versus the other. So already that's a nice detail. One of the arms is coming forward a little bit more, one of them is going back, so it looks like the character is in a walking pose.
Well, I'm seeing perspective on the knives.
Yeah, there's some nice perspective on the knives, which is working well, so there's stuff going on here that's not bad. But I would say the main advice I would give on this one goes back into getting a lot of loose practice. Uh-oh, I can feel my throat starting to give me danger mode. Yeah, let me get one of these lozenges. So if you guys wanted to hear the sound of my voice, and it also sounds like something broke loose in the engine compartment at the same time, here we go. I was being good, and I was like talking almost none all day, just getting ready for the stream.
You're trying.
But anyways, when it comes to a walking character like this, I think one of the things that you can do in advance is try to do a lot of loose gesture drawings, and that'll help sort of get the character feeling a little bit less rigid. So if we're analyzing what's here already, we've got sort of an arm here, a leg with a little bend, we got a leg here, the spine is pretty straight. So the character's standing, and there is a tiny bit of tilt in the shoulders, but it's it's pretty static. There's not really a lot of dynamic action line. And even if a character is standing relatively still, she's not doing a backflip, she's not doing acrobatics, but we still want to have a little bit of some kind of action line, even if it's subtle. We want something curving. We want something like fluidly curving through the figure, and that's sort of where the energy is going to be captured. And I think the only way to really do that is with a lot of gesture drawing practice in a sketchbook. And that's the way that I've found to like get the closest to it. So what I would do is, if I want the character walking towards the camera, first I'd give a little bit of a tilt to the head, because when a character is walking, everything is kind of subtly shifting back and forth, up and down, left to right. And then I would say a little bit of a curve in the spine. Again, it doesn't have to be like a dramatic whoa, like their arms don't have to be going all over the place like spaghetti fell on the plate. But just a little bit of a, like the torso's tilted a little bit this way, a little bit of a shoulder tilt. Go ahead and get the hips tilted in the opposite direction. If this shoulder's coming towards us, then this hip is on the closer side like that. And that means that this leg will be headed our direction just a little bit. This back leg will then be going back a little bit, so we might be getting a little bit of like crossover and overlap. Something like that. This hand is coming forward. I'm switching, I guess, the direction that she's walking in. I hope that's okay. But this hand is like swinging forward a little bit. And again, even something as mild as like this arm being down. Like notice I'm still got like a curve going. A little bit of a curve going where almost like if you take a towel and you sort of like flop it out forward, it's got like a whoosh to it.
We think the jacket is from the late 80s.
Late 80s, good period for jackets. Over here, this arm was going to be probably doing that. And then, of course, you can add the knives in with that cool perspective you got going. And it all works out nicely. But I would contrast...
I was going to ask you, what is it called when it's like kind of a static pose to get an idea of the character? What is it called again?
A ref sheet?
Yeah, this looks like it's the start of a ref sheet, dude.
Could be, but it was a walk-in pose.
Oh,
Alright, so with this, I'm just going to go ahead and illustrate, like, what was the action line that I was sort of, if I'm distilling it down to the same level, because I don't want to be unfair and be like, look at my finished drawing. So if I distilled the initial drawing down to these action lines, let me try to, like, distill this down to the same number of action lines here. So, a line for the arm, line for the body, line for the leg, line for the back leg. Alright, so even you can look at these side by side now. So the initial is here, and then like sort of like the red line version of how I would do it is here. And you can see even just from these really simple stick figures, like these are just literally stick figures, there's nothing going on. But already one has got a little bit of like a fluid, energetic flow to it. So I would like to think this kind of shows these ways to get your figures a little more loose, a little less stiff and rigid. It really does not come down to putting details on or any knowledge of anatomy. It's just like you gotta feel the flow. And again, I think lots and lots of drawings, especially lots of gesture drawings, loose, fluid gesture drawings. Feel where the curves are, feel where the momentum is, feel where the energy is flowing through the figure, and that helps to loosen things up. So I think that is number 2. What have we got on the plate for number 3? Alright, I think this is from Dr. Surreal, and I think this looks like it's actually set in Serapeum. I recognize some of these settings from Dreamkeepers. This is from Dreamkeepers, I know what this is. Because this is from a comic, it's actually the best thing ever, and nothing could ever be improved upon. Number 4.
do you feel threatened? Do you feel threatened?
Yes, I feel threatened. How dare someone else draw my comic? I can be the only one. But anyways, so this one is interesting because we've got 2 characters that are interaction. Excuse me while I play with my lozenge. This is another one where they're walking towards the camera, so you can sort of take the advice.
You know what? The red sand was a giveaway.
The red sand. Well,
Have a great day, red sand.
I'm not the only person to invent red sand. I'm sure. I'm sure it's other places.
Shows up here. I know what that is.
I know what that is. Yeah. But anyways, what was I saying? The pose of the characters, they're both walking towards the camera. So actually a lot of the lessons from this one could be carried forward here. And now let's go ahead and extrapolate based on the fact that there's 2 of them chilling together. So I like it when characters are interacting with each other, when there's like physical, like camaraderie, a little bit of like touching on the back, holding hands, hugging, that sort of thing. It just makes it feel like there's a warm connection.
You think the red sand is from Sandustry, Ohio, like Sandusky, but it's sand.
Oh, okay. I'm kind of trying to get in a flow of instruction though, so you don't have to interrupt me with stuff.
I'm reading the chat, too. You don't read the chat. I'm reading the chat.
I know, but it's not like, just so you know, during like a normal stream when I'm just drawing my stuff, it's a lot easier to concentrate. But right now I'm trying to also formulate a lesson in real time. So if it's a question that relates to what I'm doing, I definitely want to hear it. But if it's just sort of some back and forth banter, it'll throw me off completely. So please don't share that. Alright. One thing I already like about this too, just going over the stuff that I enjoy about it, is that this character has their head tilted in a different direction from this character. Like one head is tilted up and a little bit, one head is tilted down a little bit. Up and to the right, down and to the left. So that kind of sort of symmetry, that mirroring is really nice. It really kind of pulls them into the same space together. So I think one thing I would do is I would actually even consider exaggerating that just even a bit more. and it looks like he's focusing on his hand, which is injured. So I'd try to like put his eyes down a little bit more to make sure that the focus is more tightly correlated with what he's looking at. And then she's focusing on him and his face. So I'd push the pupils a little farther in the eyes, so it's a little easier to tell what they're looking at. And actually, here's a note on that too. You might think, like, if you have a good three-dimensional idea of the eyeball and where the pupil is and what it is looking at, you might think, okay, well, in three-dimensional space, I'll make the pupil pointing at the object it's supposed to be looking at, and that is correct, and it'll look good, and I'll make it very accurate. And actually, for a while, Pixar was doing this in some of their animations until they had to stop and do it differently. Because they realized even if the eyeballs were pointing quote-unquote correctly, it didn't quite look right on camera because it wasn't translating to the viewer the right way. So they actually had to make the eyes look in incorrect directions just to make sure that in terms of the way it was staged, it looked to the audience like the eyes were focusing on what the audience thought they would be focusing on. So basically they had to kind of cartoonify it a little bit instead of relying just on the computer to do all the work. Let's see, what else would I do about this? I think I would exaggerate a little bit their bearing, because he's got a... That's one thing to do when you're trying to get poses to snap, is try to figure out what is the sort of like essential nature of what they're doing. And you've already got the ingredients here, which to me shows there's a good substrate. Like, he's leaning back a little bit. If you look at what you've already got going on, he's sort of leaning back, and he's looking down at his hand as he leans back, so what that indicates is that he's looking at an injury, and he's like, I don't really like this injury. I don't know about that. His body language is tilting back away from something that he doesn't like. Now, if he was looking at her and leaning back, that would actually send a totally different message. So little things like what the character is looking at when they have that pose, little things like that can really change the subtext a lot. Excuse me. I guess the luncheons made me burp. I'm sorry that my body is weak this round, but we're still getting through it.
You're talking.
And I would notice too, like, she's actually sort of like leaning more into him, you know, both even in terms of the tilt of her body a little and with the arm going around him. So if I was going to redline this, I would consider just taking what you have and exaggerating it a little bit more. Have him leaning back from his hand a little bit more. Also, good silhouettes on these characters. It's translating nice and clear. So I just have him leaning back a little more. Maybe this hand is even like swinging out a little wider. Sort of like doing the thing where, you know, sometimes if it's like, if you're really scared, your arms go straight out and like, oh, I'm terrified if there's a tarantula on the ground in front of you. But if it's not a tarantula, if it's just something that you're a little bit weirded out by, it might be like that. And then this is like, I don't like my hand being bandaged. That's like an even more subtle version of it. So just taking this arm, swinging it out a little bit more, sort of helping feed into his whole body focus on his injury, and like his body language is kind of telling us, is like, I don't really like this injury. And then the legs, from the waist down, his legs are he's walking. His legs are doing the job of walking, and I think these work fine. There's not really anything I'd change. What I would do with her is I would actually exaggerate a little bit how close and friendly she's getting, and I'd exaggerate even a little bit more her body motion towards him. Now, that doesn't mean that she should be completely tilted towards him, because if she's walking, she kind of has to be tilted forward. But she's kind of like leaning a little more into the side here. And if she's talking to him about his hand or trying to reassure him, maybe she's even gesturing a little bit herself. You know, sort of like, hey, my hand is up, look on the bright side. And, you know, someone could be saying, look on the bright side. And they don't stop and think through what they're doing, but unconsciously they're going to have a gesture like their palm is up, as though they are giving you a thing to look at that they're presenting to you, even though they're just, you know, obviously talking abstractly. Another thing that you can do is, like, there's, for lack of a better phrase, keyframes. There's different keyframes that you can choose from when characters are walking around together. And I would actually say that him having his front foot planted on the ground is good, and the back leg is lifting off. I would have maybe her front leg doing something different. Like, it's at the stage where the heel is coming down, it's almost about to plant, but it's not quite there yet. And then her back leg is doing the thing where it's like about to lift off, but it's still a little bit grounded. And that way their walking poses, it looks like they are walking together in the same space, but it's not like they're necessarily in step with each other. So it just looks a little more organic, a little more unplanned, I guess. So that's what I would do on this. Is I would have the characters. I would just exaggerate the body language a little bit, have it a little more clearly pointed out with their eye placement, what his focus is, what her focus is, and then that adds more meaning to the action lines in the body. All right, number 4 on the list, we have this reminds me of that Rouge the Bat Sonic character. I think this, I might be wrong, but I think this might be sort of like a riff on that, like a meme about it or something. Coffee helps.
Actually, I think that's Rouge's outfit.
Yeah, Rouge's outfit, but obviously this is not a bat character. This is obviously a Gila monster.
Everything's a Gila monster.
Everything's a Gila monster in my book. But anyways, so this is just a cute little, this is like a cute, fun one-shot. I think one of the things I already like about this a lot is the facial expression. I know sometimes people are like, oh, you gotta master your drawing skills, you have to get so good, you have to be incredible. But honestly, sometimes cartooning, you can do stuff that doesn't take like an incredibly like intimidating level of like, oh, you have to master anatomy. Do you even know what a pectoralis tricepticus muscle is? Then you can't sculpt this. You could never do the David sculpture, you know. But if you got an expression on a character and it reads nice and clean and it's appealing to look at, then sometimes the cartooning does the job and you don't... Oops, I'm drawing on the wrong layer. Womp. Get out of here. Draw it upon layer. But sometimes nice, simple, straightforward cartooning, it does what you want it to do.
How do you stay motivated to continue drawing, especially if you're a beginner?
The way to stay motivated to continue drawing, I'm not sure if I'm even going to be good at answering that, because I don't really have to stay motivated, because it's what I want to do. It's like my favorite activity. For a beginner, I would say, honestly, just sort of like, I can't really speak for other people, but I know for me, I was just sort of letting my enjoyment of it guide me. Like, if you're really having a good time with what you're doing, and the process is good, and you're excited to learn and move forward, that to me is going to make it just, like, really fun.
It's also, there's always more learning and improving.
Yeah, so I think that might help. I think what might stop beginners at some point or make them feel frustrated and detract from their enjoyment is if they're too focused on, like, oh, I want to be super good. Oh, I want to be at a certain level. And it's like, everyone wants to be, like, at a certain level or, like, better or whatever. But you have to sort of just enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the process of learning. It's sort of like being on a mountain. Like, if you're like, oh, mountain climbing. I love mountain climbing. I'm going to climb this mountain. Then you might get all the way up to the top of the mountain someday. But if you're at the bottom of the mountain and you're like, man, I really wish I was at the top of the mountain like that guy up there. And there's a guy up here like, oh, I'm at the top of the mountain, motherfuckers. But if you're down here and you're like, I just want to be at the top of the mountain. And man, that guy's so far above me, what's even the point of getting started? It's like, well then, you know, it's going to be kind of frustrating. But if instead you focus on, you know what? I love me climbing. Woo! I'm like a monkey. Climb, climb, climb. This is such a good time. At that point, you don't have to be demoralized when you see someone that happens to have been climbing for longer than you, or they happen to be like a faster climber than you, whatever. If you're having fun on your journey of like learning art and being an artist and creating stuff, then nothing's going to take that enjoyment away from you. And if you're really keen on like getting higher on the mountain and improving your skill, then it's a lot about just like keeping your eyes open, keeping that spark alive that you are enjoying what you're doing, and just to enjoy the climb. Keep on looking for ways to improve, keep on looking for that next stepping stone to get a little bit higher. But at the same time, you know, don't be too wrapped up in what elevation that you are currently at. And if that's what you're really, really wrapped up in, it's just gonna kill the enjoyment of the art for you. So I'd say be cautious about that mindset. There's already, like, again, I know people might look at this and think like, oh, that's a relatively simple one. He's gonna tear it apart. But like, no, there's actually some really good basics going on here. And I mean cartooning basics. Like, look at, we got overlap. Very clear overlap where this arm is overlapping the top of the body, and then it goes and overlaps behind the body. We have a nice overlapping shape here, so we know that this arm is a little bit behind. More overlap here. And this stuff might seem trivial, but really, It's those overlaps that just take something that can be a simple cartoon and make it work. So I would say this person has simple cartooning down really good. The only thing that, so I would say the next level up from that is I would consider trying to take that simple cartoon and then just add a little bit extra to it. And so the little bit extra I would say is like, if you've got like, say, simple cartooning style, that's great. Oh, look at that overlap on that cheek. Oh, beautiful, masterful, that's great, great job. Then the next stage might be rotate it a little bit. So if this is like good 2D cartooning, #1, oh, I can draw a star, of course I can. The next step might be like, okay, we'll take that from being like a flat circle and try to think of it more as a sphere. And you don't even have to necessarily sketch them out if you can just have it in your head, but usually for me, I always have to sketch out the structure, make some curving lines on the surface. So you sort of have a sense of, and if you know there's like cheeks, then like, oh well, instead of just a line that goes straight down, it'd bump out here, it would bump out here. If this is where the nose is, it'd bump up there. So I guess the next stage would be, and we'll just use the same face, eye, smile, eye, smile. So the next stage is going to be like, take that 2D good cartooning style and try to just apply a little bit more three-dimensional thought underneath it. And that's not even to say that you have to add all of these construction lines all over the place. But even if you take the construction lines out, it'll like kind of show through if you have like some three-dimensional thinking under the surface. So that would be my my tip for proceeding to the next level, I guess, for this artist, is take your good, solid 2D ability, and then start doing some of that sketchbook practice. Like rotate some cylinders, get like a sphere, and get like a sense for what the depth is like. Get like a cube. I mean, this stuff seems really basic.
They say they use this kind of targeting the face technique.
Oh yeah, I like helping with face techniques. But it might seem basic, but really all of the 3D characters and stuff, if you get your 3D shapes down, then that's going to unlock the ability for you to do stuff, you know, that is more like this, because suddenly you can move those 3D shapes in a perspectival environment, and you just have a lot of cool stuff happening. So let's move on to number 5. Well, my voice is still working. No, I got coffee next to me, and it's got creamer in it, so it's even better than water. He told himself, justifying his addiction quietly. This is another one that's got some good perspective already going on here. So let's just look at what the perspective is doing. Got a nice crossbeam this guy is perched up on. Also, I like the big heavy cedar crossbeams. It makes me feel like this is a cool cabin or a lodge. And the nice river rocks in the walls, like the hardwood floor, little footies on this cabinet. So I don't know, there's details here that just sort of make this fun, and it makes me feel like this is a cabin or a lodge. And I just like that vibe. Like, I'd like to go to a cabin or a lodge. So again, the choice of what materials to use in your structure, like already you've got like a structure with like an interesting three-dimensional space. This one is angled, it's not straight up and down. So we get the fact that there's an angled roof, so we're understanding more about this environment, even from these little glimpses of the things in here. This guy has like his shadow being cast. I like that. It really, having cast shadows like this helps tie characters into the depth of the scene really nicely. Clear light source. And also this ninja guy being up here is great. So good perspective, good materials. You could always use like even talking about like background clutter. You could even clutter the background up a little more. Maybe there's like a candle holder or a lamp here, but it's like not, you know, it's not lit because it's at night, and so they don't keep it unlit for some reason. It could be like a little end table here just to add a little something. So just like a couple little touches can sometimes make these environments seem busier. But of course the main thing here is the ninja hiding, and this person totally not seeing the ninja. So that's already working really well. What would I even change about this? I would say one thing that's kind of coming off a little strange is the way the tail is wrapping around. I'm not quite sure. I think this, okay, at first I was like just a little confused because I was like, is this their tail coming down and then it has like a right angle in it? but I don't think that's... I think this is like the cloth of the ninja outfit, and then the tail is completely coming around from the back. So you can see the tail comes down the back and then comes around here. So I would say it's not like this drawing is like, you know, oh, it's incorrect, it's wrong. It's like, no, it's fine. But you have to be careful, like, that you don't necessarily give the reader things that would totally be... These 3D placements would be completely accurate if this was like a real setting. Just like with the Pixar eye direction. But having like the cloth of the little ninja belt have a tangency and touch this tail sort of helps to provide some visual confusion, almost like an optical illusion for the viewer, where the viewer then is like starting to have like strange questions about like, oh, is that the tail coming in? And so to help with that, I would actually take the little, what is it, like a belt loop, take this little like ninja cloth thing, I would actually have it like going somewhere like this instead.
I think it's a belt.
Yeah, a belt loop thing. And I'd have like the other little tie coming down like this, something like that, so it's a little more clear to the viewer, like, oh, I get it now. Also, I like the fact that this is, I think it's a possum. I like the prehensile tail coming in, because people usually don't do prehensile tails with possums, and this is awesome. It's got a nice curve to it. And actually another nice thing about the pose is this foot is in front of the tail, so it helps anchor the tail to keep it from like sliding down. So good pose. I'm just gonna do what I do and exaggerate it a little bit, but a lot of stuff about this is really strong to begin with. And again, the only thing that I could really be like, oh, this might be a small visual road bump for people, is I would just make so that the belt and the tail don't have any physical contact, and it just keeps it visually a little bit more simple for the viewer. Then it's less work for them to have to do, because they don't have to like sort of like figure out what is quote unquote really going on in the scene. So I guess like something like this, I think the guard down here is perfect. I love his expression. He's like, oh, thought I heard something. That's great. Now for the assassin, I feel like he could be sort of like leaning over a little more dramatically, or he could be like laying back a little more sneakily. I kind of like the idea that he's leaning back a little more sneakily, because he's got sort of a laid back, smiley expression, so he seems like a little bit more chill. He doesn't seem like super aggressive or aggro, I guess. So I'm going to say I like him still gripping this same point, and he's got his weight resting on this haunch, but what if he was kind of leaning back a little more? Plus this way he's sort of concealing his body more directly behind this beam. This way, even if the guy looked up, all he'd see is like 1 foot, not like a foot, and then like his face peeking over. Granted, I do like him peeking, so I'm just using a really cartoony, like, he's like smiling like do 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 do. Yeah, like he's got, then this arm also is actually doing a little more to support his weight. This arm is going back and supporting his weight as well. Of course, we got the foot up there. Maybe this foot is even wrapping around the board a little bit more. Actually, he probably would have the body direction in a different configuration here if that was the case. It's fun, you can move things around in Clip Studio, but you can't do it on pencil and paper. So yeah, I'm just kind of playing around with like, oh, what if the pose is a little different? It's more like he's kind of like lounging up here and then giving this guy the side eye while he feels clever about himself. But that's not to say there's really anything wrong with this pose. The only thing I could find to clean up is just that little belt tangency issue. So let's jump into another one. Alright. And it looks like, I forget whose this was on social media. Sorry again that I don't have the names memorized. I probably should make notations next time around or something. But this is a fun character. Actually, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Faye, but it reminds me of Faye a lot.
I don't think it's Faye.
You don't think it's Faye?
I've heard it's not Faye.
Alright, well, either way, I like the design of the character. Bird, it looks like she's caught in a spider web. So, caught in a spider web, what would I do a little bit differently here? I'm not sure what the circles up here are. Oh, I think they were starting to draw a spider, and those are like the spider's eyes. Yeah, so this is definitely the character caught in a spider web. That's no fun. I think I would put them at a little bit more of a tilted angle if I was gonna mess with this. I would think about something more like this. I think I'd also be, because if their body is all bound up, but they're trying to really struggle and get out of stuff, like how do you show that? Because like they can't move, but they're trying to move. So how do you show that in an illustration? And I think the way is like a lot of like sharp twists in the body, but it's constrained so they can't really get too far with anything. So one thing that is really working good in the initial drawing is like these webs forming straight lines, because the straight lines show that it's tense, right? If the web was just like, oh, it's just kind of drooped here, that would show that there's like slack in it, which would indicate that there's not any pressure going on. So if you want the character to be really struggling and like pulling to try to like move the web around or try to get out of the web, having straight lines really helps to show that a lot better. So good job on that off the bat. Also, sometimes little like wiggle lines like that can show that there's like strain on the arm and that there's a lot of tension and vibration. It just sort of, it's like a cartoony motif, or like almost like a little language indicator that sort of indicates that something is trembling due to stress or tension in it.
And do you think their spider webs around her waist, which is already bound?
Yeah, I think she's like webbed up pretty thoroughly. So I would even put more like indicators like that coming from the arms. I would also kind of like I would definitely get more of like the actual web drawn in. Because I think if she's supposed to be trapped in a spider web, sort of showing that web, and I'm just going to actually use a different color so it's a little easier to see, showing some of the web stuff and like where like she's stuck in there. I think having the web behind her to begin with, it's gonna help really indicate and like make it more clear that it is a character stuck in a spider web. Because otherwise, with those small indications, again, it's not like it's wrong or anything, but it's just there's something there for the viewer to have to figure out. And if you want them to be like instantly getting what you're laying out, you want to just create as little confusion as possible, so that they can just instantly be like, oh, like, you know, the idea in your head just immediately like is inside their head. Because as soon as the viewer has to stop and be like, what am I looking at here? Let me be a detective. A lot of times, especially if it's a social media post or something, if the viewer is going to be like, what am I looking at here? Like most people are just going to scroll right on by. They're just like scrolling, and then they're going to stop when they see something that's like really amusing or funny or whatever. So anything that's like indistinct or confusing is usually, at least if it's for social media, it's really not going to fly too well on there. Now I'd imagine the character, like if you put some facial expression into, like this character, she looks a little bit like, huh? She looks a little bit quizzical, and I have to imagine if a character woke up and found themselves in a spiderweb, like totally meshed, I think they'd be probably a great deal more alarmed. So I would consider just like leveling up the facial expression a little bit more. You know, get the eyes wider, like, because it's... Yeah, I'm saving the file. Actually, I should do a quick save here. So yeah, like, and the reason you get wide eyes on scared characters is just because when you're scared physiologically, the body's like, oh, something's going down. I need all the information I can get about the situation. So literally, one of the instincts is to open the eyes wide so that you are gathering more information about your environment in order to like take action more effectively. And then yeah, trying to get a lot of tension in these limbs as she's straining against the webs. That's also going to help. And again, kind of having the web in there a little bit more drawn out. And I'm not like stopping to draw like the entire spider web, but hopefully you get the idea that getting that web more drawn in there. Plus, especially with the character in a spider web, you can do the thing where they're in the center of the web, and that really helps draw the eye in really effectively. It's almost like a free set of action lines. If you've ever seen like, you know, the anime action lines and it's like, oh my goodness. If a character is in the middle of a spider web, it's like you have a free excuse to put all these action lines pulling the eye towards the character. And then having the web come out from that or get pulled out from that in areas where the character is fighting against it more explicitly. That's just like, again, it's a free way to sort of show like the literal push and pull of the character against that substrate. Alright, so I think you kind of get the gist of where I'm going with this. Character stuck in a spider web. Definitely try to get some more twisting and turning in the body. Put a little bit of shake on the limbs to show that they're really trembling. The web is getting pulled out straight where they're like exerting pressure against it. And then you can get a much more dramatic fight to escape the spider. Seventh one, ooh. I like before we started off with a worm's eye view, and now it looks like we're moving on to a little bit of a slight bird's eye view. So I like the perspective that this guy is bringing to the table. My voice is doing okay, but it's starting to get a little rough. This might be the last one for this stream. I might have to call it a bit short. But actually, it's not a disaster, because we are planning to do another Redline clinic tomorrow, same time. And if I get this guy done, that is going through half of these. So that's actually puts us on par to get the whole set finished. So I like this already. You can tell that this character is in 3D space. You can tell there's some nice perspective going on. Because I mean, look at it. The perspective lines are going down. There's foreshortening that's telling you perspective is happening. Yeah, I think this is definitely going to have to be my last one for today. There's some nice tilt in the shoulders. So I'm going to say already, putting some perspective like this on your figures, even if there's no background at all, your figure is already interacting with a three-dimensional space. So that already puts it a cut above figures that are just sort of like from a totally neutral camera angle that don't have any foreshortening at all. Just adds a little bit of interest. So strong stuff, it's already working good. I think what I would do is I would exaggerate a lot about this. So basically, I'm just going to take this pose as an inspiration and go forward a little bit. This guy's got an eye patch. He's pulling a katana out. He looks menacing, low down, a little bit dangerous. So I'm just going to make him, first different line color. I'm going to make him crouched forward a little bit more. And, oh cool. And put some more, basically try to like infuse this with more like, oh, I'm gonna get you attitude. Like, I don't necessarily know if that's what the character's personality is like or if that's what the artist is going for, but I'm just kind of like riffing on this as an inspiration. Get a little bit of an evil smile in there. And right now, this sketch, I'm just putting enough detail in so that you can sort of get the attitude and then get the action lines and get a sense of like what the angle is. So I'm trying to make his head tilted down a little bit more, tilt a little more sideways, and I want him sort of like leaning forward, almost like he's like slouching around like a bad guy. So yeah, I have him leaning forward a little bit more, and we'll still have him like walking. I might even exaggerate a little bit this back foot placement. And this shoulder would be way over here, so I think we can have this arm sort of like, kind of like this arm dangling down in a little bit of a claw shape. Sort of like, it's not doing anything, but he's just sort of like, I'm kind of threatening. And then I want to exaggerate this foreground hand even more, because that sword being drawn is sort of like, I think, one of the key aspects of this image. I swear I can talk. And sometimes you can even do things with the hand that are gratuitous. Like, I forget how many fingers this character has. We got a 5-fingered hand here. Different styles have different numbers of fingers. So I'm going to have him deciding that he's drawing his sword, and also he's number 1. Cause that's his message to you. It's like, hey, I'm number one. You better not mess with the king, son. That's what he's saying. So let's just pump up the foreshortening on this. Get this samurai sword right up in the camera's grill. The sword is getting pulled out of this scabbard that's down here. And you can see sometimes on extreme foreshortening like this, I didn't even plan where the arm was coming from. Like, I know this is roughly where the shoulder is, but in terms of like, okay, there's an arm here, there's an elbow joint. Honestly, most of it winds up being behind the hand because the hand is so foreshortened and so large that it just kind of works out. Yeah. So this drawing started off with a lot of strong stuff already. We can have the jacket kind of hanging down, overlapping things a little bit here. This drawing started off strong already with the foreshortening and the camera angle, nice three-dimensional use of space. So I basically just decided I wanted to exaggerate the foreshortening a little bit with this sword and this arm being like a big focus. And then I can push these back feet down even smaller, make them look even like relatively further away. The other nice thing about this too is like if you really exaggerate this type of foreshortening, it helps to, you can even sort of simulate different types of cameras. Like the more extreme foreshortening there is, the more it looks sort of like a wide angle lens. Because obviously wide angle lenses provide lots of foreshortening, as opposed to if you're looking at something through a zoom lens, it does the exact opposite effect. Everything is like very, very compressed in space and there's almost no foreshortening at all. Well, I guess there is foreshortening, but there's no like size difference, if that makes any sense. So like let's say, I'll just do a quick little example down here. One of these is a wide angle lens and one of them is a zoom lens. Like if you're 1,000 yards away and there's a man that's pointing at you with his hand, he will look sort of like this. And then if his back arm is going back, it will look sort of like this. And you can see he's pointing right at the camera, so his hand is foreshortened. So I'm probably just using the wrong terminology here. But
so
if
they had to censor this for Twitter.
they had to censor, yeah, you gotta censor stuff for Twitter, otherwise they'll flag your account as adult. But as on the other hand, if you have a wide-angle lens and you're like right up close to the guy, then you might have that for the size of his hand, and it's still foreshortened. It's still covering up his shoulder and everything, just like from the zoom lens. And he's not even, I'm not even giving him a different pose. He's just standing there in the same pose, and then his hand goes back, and his backhand is like the same, even smaller maybe than this one. So you can see it's the same pose. In both cases, the stage right arm on this guy is completely foreshortened, totally covering the arm. But in one, the hand is just maybe slightly bigger than his head, and this one, the hand is like, 5 times the size of his head. So that can really make it look like the camera is at different distances from the character or different types of camera lenses. And that's why sometimes it's really fun to exaggerate. I guess I should call it the scale of the foreshortening, like the size scale in the foreshortening. And that gives us some really fun results, some really fun dynamic results sometimes. Excuse me. But I believe we might be at the end of the stream because my voice is starting to go, and we have actually gone through about half of the Redline Clinic submissions that you guys sent in. So thank you everyone for sharing your art. Thank you for letting me yak about it on stream, and I hope some of this was helpful for people. I hope some of it can help you like improve your art regardless from what level you might be at. Oh, they like my little side sketches? Well, that's nice. I'm glad you like them. Again, if it's helpful, if this sort of helps give any pointers or tips that stick and help you have a better time with your art, then I'm glad. And even if you're just chilling and watching me scribble on stuff and talk about things, I hope that this insight sort of into like the thought process is interesting or fun or helpful for you. All right, that's about it.
Where can they get your sketches for this? Where do they get the first two?
I'll upload these to Patreon.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll upload all these to Patreon. I'll probably do it after Sunday though, because I still have like half of the ones in this file left to do. So when I do that on Sunday, after my voice has recovered, then it'll be complete and we can upload it there. But meanwhile, thank you guys for chilling and having a good Redline clinic with me. Thank you for tolerating the fact that it's a little bit short today, just because my sore throat is acting up. But at least we got it. At least we got it in.
What time is it tomorrow?
What time is it tomorrow? Same time, I think, 3 to 5 p.m. It's on, if you go to the CouchCon panel site, dreamkeeperscomic.com/CouchCon. Actually, only drop it in Picardo chat for folks. Yeah, so I'll update it there if the time changes, but it should be the same time. So that's it. Of course, you guys know I insert shilling for CouchCon there. We can presume that has been accomplished. Thank you again, everyone, for the support, for picking stuff up. I don't know, just for enjoying what we do. It's a lot of fun.
Will this be on YouTube if you miss it?
Will it be? I think I think it's streaming on YouTube, so I think it will be on YouTube if you missed it. I believe it will. Yeah. All right. Well, for now, this is it for the Saturday CouchCon Redline Clinic, and we'll see you guys. Well, I'm gonna stream a little bit later tonight. Actually, 7 to 9. I'm planning to stream, probably with not very much talking involved. But so I'll see you later tonight if you want to stop by. Stream ends in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and a 0.